Good morning, crafty friends. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Stamp and Create with Beth. I'm Beth Roy, an Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And today is Saturday, February 28th, 2026. So I'm just gonna give everyone a second to pop in, say hello. If you're joining me live, feel free to join in. If you're watching the replay, please say hello. If you're new to hanging out, I'd love to know where you're watching from. And if you're new to card making or if you've been doing it for a while. Good morning, Joan. Thanks for joining me. So this morning, I thought we would just do a little something different. So I have had the idea of doing some watercoloring with the re-inkers. And I used my glass mat. So let me go through some things I have here on my desk that I'm going to work with. And I'm going to show you some of my tries. It's been a while since I've done this. Okay, so I have my water painters. So Stampin' Up! Sells these. They come in a set with these 3. Mine are a little older, but they work well. And they hold water in the tube so that your brush can be wet. I have some extra towels nearby. I have some wet towels as well. And I have a bottle of water with a cup so I can refill these or rinse them as needed. I have lots of inkers over here to the side, different colors that I've tried out. And I have a roll of paper towels. So those are some essentials that you need. If you don't have water painters, you can use paintbrushes and water. That's fine, whatever you got. And I like doing it on my glass mat because it is easy to clean up when I'm done, and I can just wipe it off. I do have a heat tool nearby, just in case I need to dry some things in order to finish our card today, because a lot of times you watercolor and you leave it to the side. Now the other thing that I do have some of Stampin' Up's Fluid 100 watercolor paper, which is what we will use. But I also have some other watercolor paper that I've just picked up in the craft section at a store. Sometimes I like to practice on this paper. It's not, trying to think. So this says Fluid 100. I'm not sure exactly what that refers to. I'm not a watercoloring expert. I just know that when you watercolor, you want to use the watercolor paper because the water can stay on top of it and it gives you some cool designs. So it's not like cardstock where it just soaks it right in. So here are some of my attempts. I had this idea. And well, it didn't work out quite like I wanted. I don't know if you can tell, but when I stamped, this is a large background stamp. And when I stamped the Peaceful View stamp, it picked up the texture of the watercolor paper. And so it just kind of gave this grainy effect. And I can probably go back in with with another wet brush, and I could get this wet and reactivate the ink and smooth it out. But I wanted to show you because sometimes we try new things and we think they always have to come out perfect, and that's just not going to happen. So, my comments aren't showing. Hold on one second. Here we go. You know, Facebook doing its thing. Well, let me scroll back. I have to touch my phone and see who said good morning. Thank you for sharing, Joan. Good morning, Maggie. Good morning, Vicki. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Christy. So I'm sorry, for some reason, my comments aren't showing, of course. It's always something, isn't it? Well, I apologize if you have commented and I didn't, and I'm not seeing it. Okay, well, I'm going to go out and go back in and see if it works, but if not, we'll just keep on going like we normally do. Sorry, I have a stack of stuff over here that is falling over onto me. There we go. Okay, so let's try again. Oh, there you all are. Aw, I'm so glad you could join me. Okay, so I wanted to show you some of my attempts and some of just my playing around with some different colors. So this one didn't turn out how I wanted. It just isn't, doesn't flow how I wanted. But I just grabbed some little sheets. I wanted to try some different colors. And then this one, I grabbed one of those big sheets and I just laid on some color to just try to see how I could get the water to move a little bit. So our goal today is that we're going to create some kind of background with watercoloring, and then we'll dry it with the heat tool, and then we are going to stamp on top. So the more water you have, kind of the more your ink moves around and you get this effect. You can watercolor with a drier brush and a drier piece of paper, but you get more hard lines. So it depends on the look you're going for. So I encourage you to maybe just cut some small pieces and test out what you want to do. So this did not turn out how I wanted. I had too much water. My colors ended up running together. This, I think I just kept adding too much on top. And it looks like it's about to storm, doesn't it? So I just thought I'd play. And so today, that's kind of what I want to do, is just get the product out and just play a little bit and see what we can come up with. So I am going to use a piece of the Stampin' Up paper, and we'll just see where we go with it. So there is kind of a texture to it. There is a smoother side, and then there's a little rougher side, but you can use either one. Thank you, Joan. And I'm just going to cut this in half. So I think these are, let me see what it says on here, 5 by 7, maybe. Yeah, this is 5 by 7. So if you were making a large card, this could, be it. You could fold this in half and make just a small card with just the watercolor paper. But this paper is a little more expensive than our normal cardstock because it's a specialty paper. So I am going to just cut it in half. So it's going to be 5 by 3.5. And we're going to use that as our layer. And you could cut it, at 4 or whatever you want to do. This is just my preference. And of course, there we go. Okay, so some of the colors I was kind of thinking of were like sunrise or sunset. So I started off with a blue, and I used Balmy Blue, and one of them I tried the cloud cover because I wanted a more muted blue, but I didn't really end up liking that color. I think it might have been on this one. So on this one I put some cloud cover, and then I think I went back in with some Balmy Blue. So you can kind of see it down here. it's just more of a gray blue. So you're going to choose whatever colors you like. So if you just want a blue sky and some ground and you want to be able to stamp on top of it, that's fine. Now this stamp came from Campology, which is retired. So I just kind of went through, I have lots and lots of tree stamps and different things that you can make scenes with. And so I just picked out something that I felt kind of a look I wanted. So I'll tell you what this makes me think of. If you have followed any of my hiking photos, where we like to hike, the lake has like a little island out in it. And this kind of reminded me of that. So I thought today I might try to do some blue down around here and recreate the island that I love to go see in all seasons. And we'll just kind of add some color. So for this one, I used a few different things. I used Balmy Blue, and I'm just using re-inkers. You can use your ink pad. So if you don't have re-inkers, you can take a block and press it into your ink pad. And I had to do that for a color because you know what I realized when I started getting these out? I don't have the re-inkers for the 24-26 in colors. And of course, I wanted to use Peach Pie. I love that light orange. So those are on my next order. I'm still in shock that I don't have them because it just seems weird that I wouldn't. Anyway, so I used Balmy Blue. I used a little bit of Timid Tiger on this one, but the way I used the Peach Pie was I pushed a block into the ink pad. I stuck in a tiny bit of Cajun Craze and Calypso Coral, so I love these colors for sunset. I didn't put any yellow in this one, so if you use yellow, you have to be really careful about when it mixes with the blue. And then I used Crumb Cake and Mossy Meadow for my ground here. And this stamp kind of has some holes. It's a line stamp and it's not real filled in. So I used this to add color to fill in my trees. So, what do you guys think? Who is ready to get started on this and see where we go? So, I know sometimes it's hard to see on my glass mat, but because I want to put the watercolors on my glass mat, I'm going to not have the grid paper down until we're finishing our card. So, give me a little thumbs up in the comments if you guys are ready to get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this larger brush. I'm going to bring in a little towel here. And I'm just going to squeeze this and kind of get my brush started. And then we're going to just put ink directly on this. Now, some of the colors I used on those other samples I used Crushed Curry and I used Melon Mambo for the pink. So you can use whatever colors you want and just have fun with it. Thank you, Vicki, for that. Okay, so I got my brush started and I want to get this wet. So I'm just kind of going back and forth. I'm not worried about if I get clear to the edge, but I need this really wet so that my ink will move. So I don't know if you can see that shiny. I'm just adding water, and you can it depends on how much you want it to move. So I have quite a bit on here, and we're just going to see what happens. Now I'm doing blue first, but again, you can experiment the order that you want. And I'm going to squeeze just a little water here on my mat and kind of thin that out. Look at that vibrant blue. And I'm just going to tap it. See, I don't know if you guys could see that, but I tapped it on there and it just spreads out. So I'm just adding some blue like that. And again, you can do as much as you want. And we can always come back and add more. Now I'm gonna wipe my brush off. So these, to clean them, you can just squeeze it and run a little water through there and clean off the ink. So this is just a wet towel that I'm using to kind of make sure all that ink is pulled off of my brush. I'm gonna leave that there. And now let's pull in, do you guys want to use the peach pie? Now, when I used it on this, it felt too light to me because when we water those down, they can get very, very light. So I ended up using Timid Tiger instead, which is definitely a bolder orange. You could also use pumpkin pie. So if you want to see the peach pie, say yes in the comments. So when we participate live, you guys get to help do a few things. And if you just like the bolder orange, we'll just stay with the Timid Tiger. So I'm going to go ahead and put just a little dot of these over here while you guys are deciding. Now, you don't need very much of this Cajun Craze. And honestly, it probably would have been better to pick this up off the pad because it's very dark. So I've got my Timid Tiger, my Cajun Craze. And I did like a little bit of the Calypso Coral with it. And you can leave these on your mat so you remember what you put where, because they look very similar in the concentrated liquid form. So this is kind of starting to dry a little bit. I don't know if you can see the water just kind of running, but it's only going to go where you put that water on the paper. Let's see. Do I do ocean lake scenes? Sorry, again, the comments aren't showing. I apologize. You know, sometimes technical difficulties aren't very fun. Yeah, I hope I don't have to stand the whole time and watch my phone. Okay, so I'm going to show you this just so you can see how I picked it up. I think I'm going to do this like a water scene with, and I'm going to use this stamp, but I'm going to make it like a lake. I have done ocean scenes. We have lots of different boat stamps. So I have done scenes like that. And I just think it's fun just to create the backgrounds and then kind of add whatever you want on top. Let's get this out of the way. So I'm just taking a clean, clear block and I'm pressing it into my pad and I'm picking up a good amount of ink. And we'll lay that off to the side. So you can do that this way. It will pull quite a bit of ink off your pad. And these foam pads, they hold a lot, but you'll need that re-inker to re-ink it. So I'm just going to squeeze just a tad down here. And I'm just going to dab this and kind of let it do its thing. Like I'm creating some of those clouds that are reflecting those beautiful lights that you get in the evening. And we walked down to the lake the other day, and right as the sun was setting, and it just looked so beautiful. So you can put as much as you want. Oops, dropped all my things. And then I'm going to squeeze this and clean that out. Even though I'm going into the next color is another orange, I'm still going to clean my brush. And now let's see, I'm just going to make sure my brush is wet. And I'm going to build up to that dark color. So I'm going to squeeze a little water here and dip into, this is Calypso Coral. So it looks a little different than the color we stamp with. Now, you could use the smaller brushes, and I will when I get to the Cajun Craze, because it is definitely dark. So I'm just kind of adding more of that in. You don't have to use all of it. So when I do these, I try to just keep making different layers that I can stamp on and then let them all dry. So this is nice because I can just keep going. Okay, let's try, I'm going to use a smaller brush. So I have this other brush, and I'm just going to squeeze it and see if I can get it started. Again, squeeze. I'm doing a little water, and then I'm pulling some of that ink over into it. And let's see, I'm just adding a little bit. I just want a layer of color in there. So hopefully you can see that. I'm just adding a little bit. And you saw all my practice things, so don't think, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. Just try it. You can practice and or test it out and see what you like. And this is getting drier, so you can see it's not spreading as much, and it's staying kind of dark. So this is the Timid Tiger that I'm putting on. And this is right at the edge, so you're getting kind of that hard line. So if you don't want that, I'm going to clean my brush here. Just squeezing it. And I'm going to add some more water down here. I want this to spread out a little bit. Now we're going to do just a little bit of that dark color. And you can go back and add in any colors that you want more of. So if you want more of that blue, or you want it to have maybe some darker areas of the blue, you can go back in. So this is starting to dry a little bit up here. And so you just add more water in the areas that you want. So there's that Cajun Craze. Sometimes I like to wipe it off a little bit. So we're going to have a little bit of dark down here along what would be the horizon, and I'm just kind of swirling it around. I want it to be kind of organic, not real uniform. We'll get this a little wetter. And you can always add water and it'll help move the ink a little bit. But if you don't have your paper wet a little bit when you start, it's going to kind of stay that hard line. It's hard to smooth out. Okay. So let's see. Kind of add in a little more blue. And I also have, let's do this blue. I have some Misty Moonlight here. Let's add a little darker blue and see how that looks. So, Christy, these are called Water Painters by Stampin' Up. They come in a set of 3. So they have this wide brush, this small brush, and a medium brush. And you can fill the tubes with water. You can use paintbrushes. So, you know, if you have something on hand and you want to give this a try, you can do that. So this is Misty Moonlight. Look at that nice deep blue. Now, I feel like I need a little water. So I'm going to come in with this brush and I'm just going to dab some water here and there. Because I want this blue to move a little bit when I add it. Not quite how I wanted. I'm just adding water because I want this ink to move. And remember, this orange has a little more yellow in it, so you just want to be careful. It might look a little more green. So I'm just adding in a little more blue. There, I think that's good. Sometimes it's just really messy. You just got to see how it goes. So I haven't done the ground yet, okay? But I am going to dry this a little bit, and we're just going to see how it looks. So I'm just using my heat tool, kind of go around it. You can always wet it and add more ink. See how it's drying there? Okay. So this one kind of ended up a little more uniform on the sides than I wanted, but that's okay. I'm going to leave it because we are going to stamp. So it'll be okay. I'm going to come back in with this wider brush, and I'm just going to put a lot of water just down here on the bottom. Maybe a little too, maybe a little too much. I want it to move, but so this down here, I want to do a little bit of brown and green, and then I think I'm going to do some blue at the very bottom. Because I want to kind of make this look like it's an island. So I use Mossy Meadow, and be careful because it's it's very dominant. So I'm just going to do a little bit of crumb cake. And I might be getting off the camera here, but I'm going to do a little tiny bit of the Mossy Meadow. I'm going to start with the crumb cake. Good morning, Carol. I am using watercolor paper for this. Thank you, Joan. So if you see my phone move, I'm touching my phone. Some of the comments are coming through on the computer and some are on my phone. So I'm picking up some of this crumb cake. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm just kind of dabbing that on. I'm leaving a little bit of space, or I don't want it dark right along my horizon. So I'm just creating a little bit there that is going to become our island. And of course, you're going to make this however it works for you. Now, you can use a smaller brush, which is what I'm going to switch to. When I created this one, I used this big brush and I ended up with a lot more green than I intended. So I'm going to switch to my smallest brush. I'm going to drop some water in that mossy meadow. And I've watered this down. This one was very concentrated. And I'm going to just drop that. Might have to get some more. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to drop that. And I'm just squeezing to add a little bit of water to get that to come out. And we're going to create our little island here. And it's okay that it's going up on top of that brown. Like I said, you can kind of let it dry a little bit and then go back in and add another layer. I want this to be just a tad darker, so I'm going to put another little drop over here. I'm going to pull some of that in. And I'm just kind of blotting it on and kind of letting the water create here. Okay, I'm not worried about it being perfect. That's what I think the beauty of kind of watercoloring is. I like just kind of this organic look. Now, obviously, there's watercolored things there. You know, you can definitely tell what they are. But I'm just kind of letting this take shape because I want to build on this. And I'm just stamping a scene. So my goal is a little bit different. So that's, now I'm going to come back in with a little more brown, and then I'm going to dry this, and I'm going to add just a little bit of blue around it. And we'll see, when we stamp on top, it's going to look, oops, that's a lot of crumb cakes, sorry. When we stamp on top, it's going to be, you know, it's going to look different. So that's why I said I like to just create sometimes just different, a whole set of these, and then you just kind of can add to it and have some fun with it. Okay, so there we go. Let's bring back in. And I am going to use the Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to use this small brush, and I put quite a bit of water there. I want to pull this out. You can mix these two colors. Okay, that's the fun part too. I'm going to add a little bit of water. I'm just going to use this brush, and I'm just going around this edge. It's the only place I want this to go. So I don't have it on the very bottom. And I'm just going to tap that down and kind of let it spread out. I'm sure there's, you know, more technical ways to do this. This is just me having fun and trying something new. clean my brush a little bit. I need some more of this. Remember, this is Balmy Blue. So if you have some different blues you want to use. And I'm going to add some of this on top. Okay, I don't know how perfect that looks or accurate, but that's what we're going with. Now I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of this dark. And splash it in here along what I'm hoping will look like my shoreline. Okay, good enough. I'm going to try not to overwork it. You know, sometimes we really second guess ourselves. Okay, thank you, Maggie. Okay, so, oops. Now I'm going to dry this again. Then, so like I said, I put a lot of, ink here and kind of watered it out. If I were just, regular creating, I would make several of these. Okay, let's do that. Let's just make another one that's just blue. And we'll just make two since I'm already here with the mess. So I'm going to start this and I'm going to put water just on the top. And I actually want a little more blue on the top of this one. So I'm going to re-wet this right here and add a little more of that blue. And I'm putting water right on my glass mat. So I want this to be a little less perfect on the top, just like I at the bottom. I want it to blend out a little bit. So I'm just gonna let that sit like that for a minute. Put over here to the side now. Let's get this one going. Just a tad more. And let's just do a blue one. You don't have to have a sunset. And you can stamp anything over top of this. So this is really wet. So you see how light that balmy blue is. So when you want it to be a little darker, you can take a paper towel and dab some of that water off. He says, I see a deer standing on the grass and the scripture of the deer panting for water. Panting. Okay. Sorry. I was trying to catch back up with some of my comments that weren't showing quite yet. So this is starting to soak in, and I'm just going to dab this off a little bit. So I had this really wet, and that ink was really moving. Now I'm just going to get it wet again, but it doesn't have to be wet everywhere. And then let's do this. We're gonna add in some of that balmy blue mixed with the misty moonlight. So I'm just building a couple layers here. I'm gonna dab it again, and let's see what happens. Now, my paper towels are really textured, as you can see. So I'm trying not to leave that texture in my in my ink. So let's oh, I don't need more of that. I need more of balmy blue. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this. Okay, I'm going to use that small brush, and I was just testing it on my glass mat to make sure that it was wet. And I'm going to drop that really dark blue on there. I like that. Now I'm just squeezing my brush into that wet towel I have to clean it. I'm going to let that dry. What do you guys think? Reminds me of a storm. Now I'm going to hit this with my heat tool and dry it a little bit, and then I'm going to do the ground. And so I'm curious, trying to think if I have any sailboat stamps that are solid, but you can always fill them in. What would you put on a water scene? So we're gonna stamp this one here in a minute. Look how that I added more water. I don't really love that, so I'm gonna come in and get my brush wet here. And I'm just going to try to smooth that a little bit. So we're going to stamp this one in a minute here. I'm going to dry both of them, but I'm curious, do you want to see another ground scene here with the crumb cake and the mossy meadow? Or do you want to see if what kind of scene could we make on the water? And I'm trying to think. I have a lot of retired stamps sitting next to me. I do have the sailboat that was just on the last chance. Let's see if it's not a solid one, but it could work. Let's see what I've got here. So I'm just thinking, I would love to see what you want to see in the comments. I must have got rid of, I had some sets I got rid of, so it's possible I got rid of my other sailboat. Sometimes you gotta part with things. so I have these two, which this is very detailed. I don't know if I would want to use that on this. And then I have this one. So I feel like there's another one. Is there another sailboat set that I'm missing that I'm not seeing? I feel like there is. But you know how it is when you're going through your stuff. You don't always find exactly what you're looking for. Let's see, maybe. So bear with me here. I'm quickly trying to locate something I have that I'm thinking of. But like I said, it may be gone. Can't seem to find my lighthouse sets, and I thought there was boats in those, so you know, I need an assistant here to help me. We have another lighthouse set, but I'm not seeing it. And I know I didn't get rid of it. I'll try to be quick. You guys ever do that where you just know you have something and you can't find it? Okay, well, I don't know, guys, like, sunrise sailing, that one has a really big boat. It's just bothering me. I have a lighthouse stamp set that I can't seem to locate. Not sure why. Ah, there it is. No, it doesn't have a boat. How about a lighthouse? All right. Well, I was thinking this set had a boat, but it doesn't. Okay, so let's see. Sorry about that. Sorry about that detour of me digging into my stuff. Oh, so sailboat. Yeah, I think I sold the other one, which was, that's okay. You know, like I said, I just felt like I had another stamp that had two small sailboats. But, so we could do this and then watercolor it in, okay, on top of this. So there's that one. That one just went on to the last chance. The other ones, I'm not saying you can't watercolor, like stamp and watercolor those. They're just very detailed. All right. I'm going to go ahead and create this down here, and I'm going to use the Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to add just a tad bit of blue, and I'm going to leave kind of a little area here where we don't, it just has a little tiny bit of space. You could do seagulls too. So, or the dock, like a lake scene. I do have by the dock stamp set. So again, I'm putting that water where I kind of want my ink to move, and I am leaving a little bit of space between the top and the bottom, but I want it very wet at the bottom because I want my ink to really move. Now, I'm not sure how my how my water is going to turn out, but we're going to take some of this that drained down here and mix together, and we're just going to start putting it on. And then I want the very dark. So I'm going to use the smaller brush for that. Go in here, make sure it's wet. And I'm going to pick up some of that darker ink. And I'm just going to kind of go along and try to make an uneven line. And come back in with some of this blue. Kind of messy water, but it's there. Now you could use a different blue if you like Pretty Peacock and like the teals for your water. You could definitely do that. And I like when it just kind of runs and it has that hazy look. So that's kind of what I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this, and we're going to see. I'm not sure how we're going to stamp it just yet, but we are going to have some fun, and I'm going to clean all of this up. And be careful, because your heat tool, anywhere that you have the water and it's moving, it will move your ink. Now this is going to be really warped. That's okay. I like that hazy look at the bottom. See how it, I don't know that it really looks like water, but we're going to have some fun with it. This is pretty dry. Okay, so I'm going to lay these to the side for a second while I do a little cleanup here. For your blocks, all you have to do is take a wipe and clean it off. Okay. So I'm just wiping it off. You can dry it and it's good to go. Let's put all of these out of the way here. Now, if you don't like getting inky, you may want to put a glove on because this will be messy. You think it, thank you, Joan. I'm glad it looks like water. You know, I never know how these things are going to turn out, but I think that's kind of the fun of it, is just seeing what happens. So I'm just wiping all the ink off of my glass mat, and then I'm going to dry it. So see, easy cleanup here. Okay, now we are ready to start stamping. So I do recommend making sure that these are completely dry. And you can see the paper gets a little wonky because it's been very wet. So we want to make sure that they're dry, and then I'm going to show you how I get them to lay flat. Okay, so on this one, I have my stamp set already set up on the old Stamparatus. It's probably dirty. Yep. So I just had this marked kind of where I wanted it, but this might not fit. Might not line up the same. Nope. So I'm just kind of looking where that is, but I'm going to clean this, and we're going to reposition it. So just going to wipe that off. Now, I used Old Olive ink to stamp, so you could use whatever color you want. You could use like something and Stamp Off and make it very light so that then you can add color, or however you want to do that. So I'm going to do it this way today so you guys can see better. I'm using this one because the new positioner is really more for photopolymer stamps. And since I have this one, I'm going to use this. You can use these with the new positioner coming. But it doesn't leave a whole lot of space, and you can accidentally touch your paper before you mean to with your stamp. So my island's not quite as big as I needed, but that's okay. Or, you know, but we're going to stamp it anyways and just make do here. So I'm just kind of eyeballing where I might want this to go. And then you definitely need strong magnets to hold this paper down because, like I said, we've added water to it. It is warped a little bit, so we want to make sure that we have it flat. And then I'm going to use, you can use Mossy Meadow or Old Olive, whichever one you prefer. So on this one, I used Old Olive to stamp it, and then I pulled in a little bit more of the crumb cake and the Mossy Meadow to fill it in. So I will have to maybe get a little messy again here in a second, but we're going to go ahead before we do that and stamp our layers. Okay, so Old Olive. And I stamped this a couple of times. This is more of an outline stamp, and you're going to see when I stamp it. So it won't show up how you want it to right away. And I'm just going to press that in. You do not have to have a stamp positioner. You could just stamp it and then kind of watercolor the areas that didn't come out how you wanted. Up to you. So I'm just really pressing that into my paper because, as you can see, The trees don't show up really well yet. But we're just going to keep, I'm going to keep inking it and adding a little more ink to work with onto my paper. I want some, especially like these little branches that just stand on their own. They don't have a lot of leaves on them. I want those to show up really well. So I'm just going to keep adding ink toward the bottom. I'm not worried. I'm getting a lot of ink up there, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so there are my trees. Now I'm going to add a little more color to them. So there's that. Now let's do this one first, and then we'll do the water scene. So I'm going to use the other stamp positioner for that one. Ooh, secret sea trees. Yes, those would, now if you want it to be like it's really getting darker, you know, more towards the really, really dark night where, or dusk, then yes, you could use a darker color here and make it more like a silhouette. But I am just going to, I'm going to just do a little dab of that. I don't need very much brown. And I'm going to do a little dab of this. And we're going to use the small brush. And something you can do when you have this paper, you can make sure your brush is wet, but you can activate the ink that you just put on there. And I'm just dabbing. I don't want to smear it, so I'm taking that small brush and I'm just dabbing it. And you can, let me lift it up so you can see. You can see it's activating that ink so it'll move a little bit. I want these trees to be filled in, but I also need them to be a little darker. So I'm just pulling a little bit of that mossy meadow and I'm literally tapping it, kind of like stippling, okay? So I'm just tapping it where there are branches that have been stamped. I'm not worried if it looks perfect. Our eye is going to see a tree, whether I get all of these perfect or not. Okay. And I do want to fill in down here where the ground is. Now, my sample, I had dabbed a lot of ink onto there. So I had quite a bit down here to work with. A little more water. I want this to blend a little bit down here toward the bottom. So I'm curious, how many of you have tried some different things like using the water painters? You can definitely do this with a paintbrush and the ink refills. me show you something else. If you don't have ink refills and you want to add color to this, maybe you don't want to create a mess again. I have some ink right here in my stamp pad, and I am just going to pick some of that up. It just may not be as dark as your re-inker or concentrated. That's okay. I like having just a variety of things. Now I want some of this to fill in. So I'm just creating some dark areas down here. And then I'm going to come back and you notice I'm kind of going back and forth from my pad to the more watered down color. Okay. This one I'm going to make really dark back here. There we go. Thanks, Carol. I hope I've inspired you to test the waters here. So there are my trees. So I just used, you can use the re-inker, you can use your ink pad, and you just, depending on how much water you have, is how dark your stuff comes out. I see a spot here I want to kind of fix a little bit. There. I'm going to clean my brush again, and I'm going to come in with a little tiny bit of that crumb cake to add over here to my trees, and I may need just a tad more. Oop. Well, that's a little much. That's all right. So I'm just using this brush with, and I don't have a whole lot of water, so it depends. If you want it a little lighter, you'll want to water it down a little bit more. But I'm using not a super dry brush, but definitely not wet like how we did our background, okay? And I'm just adding in the wood, the trunk part. There we go. And it's okay if it didn't go exactly how the stamp was. Again, there we go. So I feel like it looks like my little island that I love to go visit and see on my hikes. Oh, thanks for popping in, Deb. Hope your trip was fun. Safe travels. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this up, and then we're going to go to our boat scene. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't recall trying this, and I really do feel like I have another set of boats somewhere that I'm just not finding. I know I got rid of one because I felt like I had a lot. But, and I do have a dock. I'm just not sure how it would work out. So I'm curious, how would you finish these cards? So on my other card, I didn't put a greeting because I really just kind of felt like this is the work of art, and that's all I wanted on the front. Now you'll notice I left a lot of white around here and I didn't down here. So, you know, that's something to think about when you do it. I kind of wish I would have went a little off the page in some areas, and I probably could wet it and try to pool that ink, but I'm not going to mess with it. We're going to leave it as is. Now let's bring in this one. And this is the sailboat I have. Now this is a very large stamp. This is really large. What do you guys think? Do you just want to put a sailboat in the water here? And I like to put things off to the side. I don't like things right in the middle. That is my personal preference. So the only other one I could find right away were these. Again, you can use this. You just have to realize that when you stamp this, it's going to be a hard line on here. And it does have a lot of detail. So it's really up to you if you wanted a little boat and how much detail you want to show through. Because you are going to smear this a little bit to watercolor that and maybe the sails. But if you wanted like white sails, it's not going to look like that because these aren't solid. You have to color them in. So a boat. Do I feel like Bob Ross? Oh, I don't know if my happy little trees are anywhere near his level, but thank you, Joan. So, Vicki, you agree, no greeting, because someone might want to frame your little card that you send them. Or if you like to do 5x7 cards, you could do a larger card. There was a ship in the paper and a paper pumpkin. No, I'm thinking of a stamp set for sure. I just, like I said, I get rid of things here and there, so who knows. But this does have some birds that you might want to add. You could do this as a lighthouse and add, you know, that other lighthouse stamp had, this was probably my most used favorite set. Wait till you guys see it. Look how well loved this is. This does have a ground that you could stamp and put part of a lighthouse here. Or the birds. You could stamp a little bit of ground and some birds out into the water. So what do you have in your stash that you could use to help build on top of this background that you've made? So, okay, let's do a quick vote and finish up our cards. Do you guys want to do a boat? So I only have these two that I can find right at the moment. You guys already suffered through me searching. Or do we want to do like maybe a little ground with some birds? And then we could stamp a saying. Now, I will tell you, if you stamp right onto this, you have to be careful about what you pick because it's going to activate this because of the type of paper. So make sure it is very dry Now, we could do the little birds, and then I loved these sayings. This was probably my most used set when this was available. In high tide or low tide, I'll be by your side. You have the most amazing ability to take an ordinary moment and make it shine. Let hope be your lighthouse, beckoning you through stormy seas, which even if you don't stamp the lighthouse, you can still use that saying. And this has a texture stamp that you could put over top of your water that you've created. See how this is kind of smeared? I don't have any real definition. Like up here, we have a little bit of separation between the colors. You could stamp off and lightly stamp and then take your brush over that and kind of smooth the hard lines and add more color. I like this one. So what do you guys think? Do you want to do one of these boats? And I have lots of different sayings. We can do lots of greetings. We can try. I also have the prayers and promise set that you could put on there. One of those sayings. What do you guys think? Let me know really quickly in the comments, and we're going to finish up these cards. I'm just feeling this to see. This is pretty dry. Now, I'm going to give you a quick tip while we're voting on that. Something I do, I have a clean block here. This is the E, so it's very large. I put that on top of my layer and let it sit to help it flatten and relax back down so I can glue it. So I see a vote for a boat with birds and a saying. So here's my 3 sets. I feel like this one is just so big. It would just take up the whole thing. If this is a very large stamp, it does work, but it depends on what else you want on your front. So let's do out of these 2. Let's do that. Anybody have any thoughts? There is this one. So you could do it like that, and we would fill in the color. It's the smaller boat. You could put 2, by the way, because we're going to add color on top. I kind of like just 1. Birds, definitely. So I'm just going to start laying some things out. So this set, look how grimy this looks. Well loved. This set really goes across the page. And then this set has just a few. You like the bigger one? The sunrise sailing, Deb? Or the bigger one of this? A partial lighthouse and a boat? That may get, I like this one just because it stamps solid. Now you can definitely do this and then watercolor the brown on top, just like we did these trees. Let's see. So this would have to be here. Down here a little bit. And then we could do a boat. And we could do some birds and a saying here. Now the sayings in this sailing home set are, let hope be your anchor through the storms of life. Or set sail in the direction of your dreams. And I used that saying quite a bit for graduation cards. So if you when we stamp these, you can definitely add in all the colors on top. And remember, on this one, it didn't look very prominent, like it was going to show up, but we will add color to it. So what do you guys think? Do you like the scene as it is? Let me put this back. So this, you may have this in your stash. The High Tide is this one, and it's older than this sailing home. Okay, what do you guys think? Now, I cannot use this new thing. I can. But this new stamp positioner that's coming out from Stampin' Up, this is meant to be used with photopolymer. So you can use it with these, but when you place this down, there isn't any space in between your project and this plate. So that's the difference. Remember, Stampin' Up is transitioning to all photopolymer. So this works with the best with photopolymer. And if you want to get this, it's only available right now for free in the starter kit until March 2nd. So I've been playing with it a little bit. I do like it. It has some definite fun features. So, okay, I'm not sure if you guys are commenting, but we're going to go with this. So I don't know what greeting we're going to put on here, but we're going to give this a go and see how it works out. And I'm actually going to put all of them on and stamp at the same time. Create my whole scene. This over here. And create it all at once. Making sure I'm up in here. Thank you for the love. So I'm gonna push this all the way to the top. If you have a MISTI, that's what you'll want to use. I might put okay. We're gonna put these up here. And it is hard to stamp along this, but it's going to be fine. I'm going to put my little boat out this way. And my lighthouse down here. Scoot that over. Okay, here we go. Everybody, hold your breath. Okay. I'm trying to decide which color to stamp with. We have a lot of different things going on. But I want to make sure I can see the lines and that these show up really well. So I'm going to actually stamp the birds in Secret Sea. This is the benefit of having these little mini blocks. This one came from a paper pumpkin, but you can create your own. And I'm just going to stamp that on. I may stamp everything. I'm not sure I want Secret Sea on my lighthouse. Okay, there are my birds. I'm just gonna wipe those off with my chamois. I don't want them to be super wet because they'll activate that ink every time I close it. Okay, so we've got the birds. Vicki said basic gray. So my lighthouse has some sand down here. That's what I'm kind of worried about. I think I'm going to try crumb cake. And I also want to think about this. This is going to give me some lines here. So I can do basic gray on that one. So I do have a small basic gray. And then let me grab out. I'm going to try crumb cake on the other one. So I wouldn't normally use 3 different colors, but I got to thinking too much, didn't I? Luckily, they're far enough away on my scene that I can just ink them up separately. I just want that to soak in because remember this paper is a different kind of paper. It's a specialty paper. So it takes a minute for the ink to kind of get in there. So my boat looks really well, but this definitely needs to be darker. And I tend to go with lighter colors first and then just build them up because I feel like once it's too dark, you can't undo that. But this will have to get filled in because we don't want the ocean to show through it. And you can use pecan pie. Let's try a little bit of that maybe and see. Ooh, that's really dark. This must be pretty juicy. I just did the bottom. So I'm just barely tapping that because my pad's very juicy. I think we have enough to add some color. I'm going to do my boat one more time. Okay, we're going to go with it. We've got enough there to work with. So I have this, and again, I have my small water painter here. You can see I watercolor with some of these often. I am going to use this. I'm going to use my brush, and I picked up some of that color, and I'm dumping it into the lid. And then let me wipe it off. I want to start clean. I don't want my brush super wet because I don't want to smear some of the details, but I need it to be just a little darker than it is. So this is the pecan pie. And I'm just going in the direction of the lines on the stamp. Now for the sand, I'm going to I picked up some of that crumb cake just right off the pad. Top here. Now for our boat. Not sure if I love the brown lighthouse, but I might be able to add a few colors on top. Make it look like an old lighthouse. So for our boat, I am going to bring in get my brush wet here. And I want to kind of smear these lines a bit. I'm just going to use my ink pads instead of making a big mess over here again. So I'm going to pick up some of this. And this is Misty Moonlight. Now, what color do we want our boat? Close that for a minute. Do we want it gray? And then we have to have a color for the sails. I don't know that white will cover over this. I'll be really honest, we can try, but we definitely wouldn't have any details. Oh, you know what? I have an idea. Let me grab something here. As soon as I find them. I forgot I have watercolor pencils. So let's see what we have in here that we can use. We do have a white pencil, You can activate this by getting the tip wet. Okay, so you can dip it in water, or you can run the brush over it. When am I going to do this as an in-person class? I don't know. I don't know. Do you think it would take us forever? So I'm going to try to add some white in here. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. My pencil's not very sharp. Let's see. Nope. I'm going to sharpen this really quick, so sorry for the noise. I want a really sharp point here. And I'm getting it wet with my cloth here. And it's kind of blending with that blue that's in the background. I think it could be okay. I'm gonna put a little water right here on my thing, and I'm dipping my white pencil into it. Let's see how it turns out. This is an experiment. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't really feel like it's showing up. I need my little turny thing, don't I? Not quite coming out how I wanted, but it is adding white. It's just not as dark as I wanted. So I'm just pressing hard on this and trying to add that white on the sails. Like I said, it is going on there. It's just not quite as bright white as I want. It may be okay. I'll pull it up to the camera here in a minute. Okay, so I'm actually going to just use one of these to add color to my boat. Question is, do we want it to be gray, or what color do we want that boat to be? Okay, so I have my gray watercolor pencil, and I'm just adding some color there. And then I'm going to take this brush. It just has a little bit of water on it, and I'm going to smear that. Now, I don't like how this is kind of spread, and it's just kind of a blob there of the same color. So I'm going to have to bring back in, I think I'm going to just put some more of this on. So I'm going to squeeze water into my lid. And I'm going to squeeze a little bit onto here. I'm going to try to add a little color in here to kind of smooth that transition out. Just a little. I don't want to lose my hazy look either. adding in some darker areas to kind of maybe help that texture over there. I need a little more balmy blue. So I got this really wet. Try not to get on top of where you stamped, because it's going to spread. So let me clean this and clean up my mess again and dry this. And I'll see if I can get that white to kind of show up. Okay. All right. So I have just a little, my brush is just a little bit wet, and I'm going right over top the sail. I'm going to see if I can get that white pencil. I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. I think it's okay. It kind of has a sheen to it where I put the pencil on. So it was an idea. It's always worth a try. So let's see. I'm trying to think if I want to add anything in here. Smearing that a little. If I had planned it better, I knew I wanted to do a lighthouse over here, I wouldn't have put the blue. And gray might have worked a little better, but I think it's okay. You get the idea, right? So, yeah, it's an experiment sometimes, especially when you have watercolor paper and you're stamping on top. Smooth that bird just a little bit. Okay, so you can see it's like all wonky. This is fairly dry, but we're going to put this over here under my clean block, and we're going to finish this card really quick. So my other card I used, this is Basic Beige, and I liked it because I felt like the neutral really helped that scene kind of be visible, but without taking away from it. Let's see what else I have. Some other colors next to me we can try if you want. I have, this is Night of Navy. You can kind of see the difference there with that bolder color. Yeah, you could make the boat darker for sure, like it's, the details aren't easy to see. This is cloud cover. That's kind of cool. And then here is Secret Sea. Wow, that really makes it pop. Which one did you like best? Yeah, you could definitely make it all black, like it's a silhouette, like it's darker. So if you were making it a darker scene versus a daytime scene, I like doing silhouettes for that reason, because I feel like I don't have to fill in the details. So when I do sunsets, I normally like to do like a really dark, I've used Secret Sea. I like using Misty Moonlight and keep stamping it. Now, Night of Navy, if you are watercoloring with that one, it has kind of a purple tint to it. I'm trying to think what about other colors I've used. You can definitely use the Memento Black. So whatever your eye kind of sees, what colors you see there is really the right way to do it. You like the Secret Sea? I think I like that too. We didn't use Secret Sea in this at all, but the blues really kind of help that orange look really vibrant. So let's do the Secret Sea. I kind of like that. So here's the original. And you can see I liked the neutral. I felt like all the colors kind of got center stage, but I like how it popped off the blue too. Secret Sea is seriously my favorite color. Okay, I just had 3 bone folders. There they are. Now wait, because we're going to do this one. I wonder what color we're going to pick. I only had one Secret Sea over here. You never know. So, I liked it with the cloud cover too. I thought that was a subtle, definitely subtle. So, I'm just going to adhere this right down to my card base. Make sure you're using a strong adhesive, and I am going as close to the edge as I can get without it squishing out, okay? Now remember, this isn't going to have equal edges because the measurement is 5 by 3.5. Not sure if I got that exactly straight, but so I'm pressing the edges. I really want that to be adhered. And then I'm going to take this and put it right on top. So this one hasn't had time to flatten out as much, but that's okay. We're going to finish this. But before we do, we are going to attempt stamping this. So do you want me to kind of add some darker colors to this? Like add in some of that dark blue and make it more look like a silhouette? Or are you happy with how it looks? I kind of like it. I like it. I feel like the brown kind of became dominant, and that's not what I intended, but that's okay. That, you know. I need to initial a corner. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate when my friends have faith in me. Okay, so here's this. We are going to stamp a greeting on it. We're going to test it out. We're going to try it. So this would be on cloud cover. I kind of like that. It adds to that stormy feel. This, I kind of like this because we did use brown. This is the basic beige. And then this is Night of Navy. What do you think? You like it, Vicki? Thank you. Sometimes as I'm creating, I just second guess myself. You know. So what do you think? Do you want to use one of those sayings that was from the older set? You can see I used these stamps with stays on, and that's why some of them are just stained really, really black. There's this. I actually used this on a canvas before. This one says, "Let hope be your lighthouse, beckoning you through stormy seas." So we can use something like that, or, oh man, sorry, had a crash next to me. We can use this new set. Praying the Lord's promises will bring you hope and comfort in the days ahead. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. I just did a class, and that was probably the favorite saying. Keeping you in my thoughts, holding you in my heart, and remembering you in my prayers is also a favorite. You can see those two were used the most. You could fit something like that. I just undid my... We could use something like that there. You just want to remember, anything thin, we have to be very careful that the words don't smear. We don't want to ruin our scene we just did. Yeah, I think the cloud cover gives it a nice soft feel. Even though we didn't use this color, that's okay. The gray blue kind of helps calm all the other brighter blues. Kind of wish I would have done this as a silhouette. Would have been a completely monochromatic card, but that's okay. So what saying do we want to use? Pop your thoughts in the comments, and we're going to finish this card up and adhere it together. Let's see. I'm going to stand up for a minute. Okay. I'm not sure which one I like best. I like this one because the words are a little chunkier. And I think it might work better. What do you guys think? You want to do that saying? I like to keep my old favorites and use them a lot. And this one has really been getting used a lot. So when you have things like this really thin script, you just have to be careful unless you're stamping it on, you know, a separate piece and adding it to the front. But I don't want to take away from my scene. I like it. So let's bring in the new stamp positioner and use this. So again, now I'm not sure about these magnets and how strong they are. I've only used it a few times, but we're going to give it a go, and I'm going to just hold my breath and pray that they hold it down. Maybe I'll borrow a magnet. I'm going to borrow this magnet. I really don't want it to move. So these, they are pretty heavy duty, and they have little tabs, but they're just small. So I'm going to pull in my other magnet, and I'm going to put this about there. I think I'm straight. It's hard to tell when you've watercolored and things swirl around, but I will say when I pick it up with this, this has these lines, so I can kind of tell if I got it straight, and I can adjust it a little bit. So you can see, I think it's okay. Might be just a hair, but we're going to go with it. So, what do you guys think? Secret C for the words? Kind of make it a little monochromatic. I might actually bring in that secret C and put some blue into my lighthouse. Because it's just bothering me. Yeah, Carol, me too. I'm hoping that we'll be able to purchase extra magnets. I just feel like sometimes different things need a little more strength to hold it down, especially if you have new stamps, because they're really sticky. Now this one's well loved and old. Look how stained it is. I can't tell you how many cards I made with this set. It will probably forever be in my stash until my kids give it away. So I've inked it up. Sometimes it's hard to tell if I even inked it up all the way. So the beauty of this with photopolymers is I sat this down to go onto my card, and my stamp is not touching my paper yet. Now I'm going to press it down. So this is when you really want to make sure that your paper is not wet at all, because your words will spread. And then I'm just going to let it come up. So it has these two little, down here at the bottom, there's two little legs that have springs. And these are springs, so they move up and down. Ooh, oh, I kind of like that. But I am going to stamp it again. I kind of like how it kind of looks like the words are a little stormy. But I am going to darken it. Fun, right? So I'm going to put this right back where it was and press down. I like that. And then you just use your chamois to wipe it off. I like it. Now, I do want to tone down that brown. So I'm going to do that. Put that out of the way. Now, the grid paper that I have in this is available for pre-order for demonstrators. I don't know if it is going to be immediately available afterwards. So if you do sign up to get the kit, you can go in and add that grid paper that works with it. to an order. Okay, I am going to just dab some of that Secret C onto my glass mat. I'm taking that brush. And I don't want to overwork it, but I just feel like this is too much brown. Tone it down a little bit. Oh, that was not Secret C. Did anybody yell at me? That's gray. There we go. There's some Secret C. Oh. Don't mind me. I'm over here doing who knows what. That is a good idea. I think Vicky just said restamping it. In the Secret C. I'm just going to add some. With my brush here. And I might end up hating this. I don't know. Just feel like it needs toned down a little bit. I'm not worried about the sand. It's an old, weathered lighthouse. How about that? Okay, I think it toned it down. I don't know if I love it, but I don't think it's too terrible, but I definitely felt like the brown was just too much of a contrast for me. Okay, I'm going to take my own advice and quit overworking it. And I'm gonna dry it really quick. Okay, I think if I did this one again, if you have the other stamp set with the lighthouse, I would probably stamp the solid lighthouse. I just liked it better than this detailed one. But I still like it. I think it just looks like an old lighthouse. And I'm going to put that like that for a second. What did you guys think of this cloud cover? I'm trying to move all my wet things so they're away from my cards. Just going to let that relax for a second, and then we're going to use some very strong adhesive, liquid glue, my favorite. And we're going to put that on there. So what do you think? I think I do like the cloud cover. Just because I think it has that stormy feel to it. So I hope you guys liked everything we did today. And again, I used Stampin' Up's Fluid 100 watercolor paper, but you could use whatever you have. Just, you know, do some practice sheets. I'll bring mine back in case you missed them at the beginning or you skipped it, which is fine. And show you. Now, I just put, you could do a basic beige layer on the inside of these cards. You could do a little, you know, watercolor at the bottom and do a watercolor paper. But again, this is a specialty paper, so I don't like to use it on the inside because I want to save it. So some ink on there. So I'm just gonna pop this on the front. Again, it's not equal all the way around. If you want it to be equal, you'll have to trim the 5-inch side down to 4 3/4. I don't mind. I don't think everything has to be even all the time. And you definitely want to make sure this is dry, because if you do that, it will smear over top. I'm trying to make sure I've got that edge down. And then I'm going to bring that block in and just let it hold on that and let it, the glue dry all the way so it holds it nice and firm on there. So on the inside, you can do a two-tone, like a basic beige on the light side. That will be light enough for you to write on. This paper is actually light enough to write on if you don't want to add a layer on the inside. Or you can just use white cardstock. You're right, Maggie. It does make the lighthouse kind of pop a little bit more, be the prominent thing. The boat's more, you know, in the background. And the saying does talk about a lighthouse. So you're right. That makes that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So sometimes we just have to keep talking ourselves into things, and I do like it. I think I like it a little more distressed than just, you know, the brown. I think I like it with the secret C on there, and I accidentally put a little basic gray. So, you know, whatever colors you have, mix them, see how it turns out. No, Vicki, the new Stampin' Positioner only, it has that large plate, and then it has a small plate. Don't ask me where it's at right now at the moment, somewhere over on my table, but it does have a smaller plate. So it has 2 plates, and you can do some fun techniques with that smaller plate. It fits. So the smaller plate, again, I'm not sure where mine is. It might be over on my table. This pulls off, and the smaller one fits on these pegs, so you can move it. And it has grids just like this, and it has 4 legs, so you hook it on, and then when you push it down, it has that same spring. I do not know if we will be able to purchase extra plates. More information will be coming about how their Stampin' Up's going to do that, you know, extra magnets or and those kind of things when they release it to customers. Right now, demonstrators were able to pre-order it. before it became part of the starter kit. And right now, until March 2nd, you can get that for free if you sign up for the starter kit. So also, one more reminder for today before we go. Today is the last day of February. So if you earned bonus days coupons, they have to be used by today or they expire. So don't forget to use those. So if you shopped in January and earned those, you want to make sure you spend those today by today. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I'm going to bring in, here's the 2 cards we made. I love them. Here's one of my originals. Again, this used the tree set from Campology. I used all retired stamps today. Okay, so what do you have in your stash that you could use? You can mix and match with whatever you have, current things. I was trying to figure out some current things that I have, but I just, I really just wanted these kind of trees. There is a tree set like this in, trying to remember the name of the stamp set. It has a dock and a little boy fishing, but I don't own that set, so I pulled out something that was similar. But you could use any trees you have, anything. So here are some of my test pages where I just was experimenting with colors and what I might want them to look like. And here is one where I tried creating a border with, you know, the painter's tape. And I tried stamping that large image from Peaceful View. I love that image. So I created my background and then I stamped with the tape on, and I just noticed, now this is not Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper, but it picked up the texture. And so I didn't try smoothing it out. I decided it's kind of growing on me. I'm not sure how I use it. I may have to trim it down because my border is very messy. But I just think it's fun to kind of see where you can go with something that I don't watercolor very often. I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near an expert on it for sure, but I just wanted to play with some things and see how the ink goes onto the paper when I'm using different amounts of water. Again, this was just from a craft store, like a big watercolor pack. And I feel like I just like to practice and before I use the Stampin' Up! Watercolor. No, Vicki, you cannot use both sides of the new Stampin' Positioner plate. The legs are only one direction. So you will you only use one side of it. So you can only use one side. Let me bring it back in really quick before we wrap up. So this plate has feet on the bottom, and they go up and down. They have a spring, and this part has a spring. And there's a little hole here that you rest that on. So you can't flip it and use it this way. It won't, this side won't be up off your platform. So it's a little bit different, but what I am excited about this is this side, and this side are open. So if you want to stamp on a scrapbook page or something that's larger than, you know, our 8.5 by 11, you can fit things in here to do that. Maybe you're stamping a 12 by 12 sheet, and you want to use the positioner for certain things that line up or that, you know, so I think that's really cool. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed these cards and the technique. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will see you guys soon. Take care and have a beautiful weekend. Bye.